what we really need is a balance between yin and yang traits without any extremes. Instead of being all one or the other, what we want is to have 1 foot in yin, 1 foot in yang, kind of following this S curve in the middle of the yin-yang symbol, so that we have access to yin and access to yang. If you get some downtime, you can enjoy it, the downtime. If you need to get a lot done and you need to be really busy, you can do that without getting overwhelmed. We have enough circulation and energy flow for healing and to keep the body warm, but we don't race around wearing ourselves out all the time. There's a third character that I'd like to discuss because it comes into play with nutrition, and that's something called yin deficient. So we've got yin and we've got yang. If yang is too much, someone will be hot and overly busy and racing around and get health problems that have overactivity associated with them. If somebody is too yin, they'll be cold and not enough movement, difficulty healing. But someone can also be yin deficient. Yin deficient. Not one is too high, but one is normal and the other is low. And yin deficient becomes important when it comes to nutrition because yin is the source of the energy for the body. That's what I said earlier, the wax in our candle. Many people think, I just want to keep going and going and going. So they use caffeine or sugar or more activity to keep you awake. You don't sit down because then you'll get tired. And they end up burning up the source of that energy. What's the source? It's the yin. So they burn that yin down. And what does that look like to our body? The yang is now higher than the yin. It's not overall too high, but it's higher than the yin. Somebody's health will be affected in specific ways if they're yin deficient. They will feel a little bit thirsty all the time, like their mouth is dry. They'll have a bottle of water or a glass in their hand all day long, little sips. If somebody is too hot from being too yang, when they're thirsty, they get thirsty all at once and they drink a large amount all at once. Glug, 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 till the glass is empty. So there's a thirstiness that comes from being too hot, but it's a big thirstiness. Yin deficient is a little bit of thirstiness or dry mouth all day long. So the yin is too low. It looks like somebody might have some symptoms of yang, but it's not really yang. It's that they don't have enough yin, so they're a little bit thirsty all the time. Their body could have other dry kind of symptoms, dry eyes, other kinds of dry skin. Yin is also groundedness and rootedness. They could become shaky, agitated, anxious, difficulty sleeping at night. Instead of being hot all the time, which is when somebody gets too yang, they can become hot all the time. When somebody is yin deficient, instead of being hot all the time, they will get hot for short periods, but they will get cold other times. So if somebody gets too hot and then can get cold, that's a sign of yin deficiency. Where somebody is too hot, they're too hot all the time. They never get cold. That's an important distinction. And instead of their whole face being red, just the cheeks will be red. So somebody who's too yang will have the whole face red. Somebody who's yin deficient, just the cheeks will get rosy. The palms can be hot. The soles of the feet can be hot. Somebody can have night sweats if they're yin deficient, hot flashes. Those are signs of yin deficiency. That becomes important when we start talking about how to adjust our energy using food, because if somebody is too hot, they would eat foods that are cooling. If somebody is too cold, they would eat foods that are warming. If somebody is yin deficient, they need to eat foods that increase fluids in the body without heating the body up too much. If you heat the body up with warming foods, the person can dry up some more. They can dry up some more. But we don't want to cool them down too much, because yin deficient is not the same as heat. So if somebody is too hot, they're too yang, you give them cooling foods to cool them down. But if somebody is yin deficient, you don't want to cool them down, because then the yang will get too low. So you don't want to cool them down too much. You want to increase fluids in the body. So these are some basic principles of understanding Chinese medicine, the energy within the body, yin and yang, and yin deficiency as it relates to food. We're going to take this concept to the next place and talk about the 5 flavors of Chinese medicine. It's the flavor of the food that gives the energy quality to the food. The flavor of the food is like the biochemistry of the food. In Western nutrition, we talk about components in the food like fat, protein, carbs, fiber. But in Chinese medicine, we talk about the flavor, because it's the flavor of the food that creates the action of the food. And Chinese medicine talks about 5 flavors. These 5 flavors create specific movement of energy within the body. So I mentioned that if somebody were too yin, they could be too cold. So what do we want to do? We want to warm somebody up. They would eat foods that make the qi expand, rise up and outward, and create activity through the body. There are flavors that do that. They would be yang flavors. So if somebody is too cold, they need to increase yang within the body. They would be yang flavors. If somebody were too hot already, they would need to eat cooling foods. Cooling foods are yin. So they make the qi come in and sink downward.